Star Trek IV gets a new update, with a report claiming that Zoe Saldaña is now signed on to star in the project. After two successful Star Trek reboot films starring Chris Pine as Captain Kirk, Star Trek Beyond hit theaters in 2016. Despite positive reviews, the film was a soft performer at the box office, and a potential Star Trek IV has been stuck in development hell ever since, with conflicting updates emerging about the project over the past few years. A new report from Variety now sheds some light on Star Trek IV, claiming that Saldaña is signed on to return as Lieutenant Nyota Uhura in the film. Saldaña also shares some of what she hopes to see from Uhura in the upcoming sequel, which includes more of an exploration of her dynamic with Zachary Quinto's Spock. As for the status of the Star Trek IV script, the actor hasn't read it yet, and she makes clear that she won't be putting her life on hold waiting for the project to come to life. In the first years when these sequels were becoming a thing in my life, I wouldn't do anything. I would just live my life and wait. Now I'm learning that there's so many things I want to do. I'm like, hey, what's out there? What Saldaña's update means for Star Trek IV. What is the status of the long-awaited sequel? Star Trek IV has experienced a number of false starts over the last few years, but the fact that Saldaña hasn't yet read a script means that things still seemingly haven't progressed a great deal with the sequel. It was reported earlier this year that Steve Yockey, creator of The Flight Attendant for Max, was writing the script, but it's not clear if this is still the case or if the project has pivoted again. Though the film was once slated to release in December 2023, that date came and went, and the movie has no new confirmed release date. At this point, factoring in completing the script and getting actors' schedules lined up, the soonest Star Trek IV could be hitting theaters is probably 2027, but 2028 is more likely. As for who would be involved in the film, core Star Trek cast members like Pine, Quinto, Simon Pegg, Montgomery Scott, Carl Urban, Dr. Leonard McCoy, and John Cho, Lieutenant Hikaru Sulu, would seemingly all be returning. Though most of these stars have expressed interest in returning for another film, they generally seem to be just as in the dark about the project as fans are. Our take on the latest Star Trek IV update. What challenges the new movie faces? It's been more than 8 years since the release of Star Trek Beyond, and, despite Paramount's efforts, it wouldn't be surprising if the film doesn't end up happening. At a certain point, continuing the story of a film that was only marginally successful at the box office becomes a questionable commercial venture. That being said, there is clear love for this particular iteration of characters like Kirk, Spock, and Uhura, and it would be exciting to see the gang get back together for one last adventure. While many questions remain about the upcoming film, it likely won't be made at the same budget level as Star Trek Beyond, which had an estimated price tag of $185 million. This will be particularly challenging to achieve not just because of the spectacle expected of the franchise, but because the salaries for all the very famous cast members will eat up a large chunk of the budget. Though Star Trek IV seemingly still has a ways to go, Saldaña being signed on is a positive sign, and hopefully, more updates will emerge about the film in the near future. Zoe Saldaña's portrayal of Lieutenant Nyota Uhura in the rebooted Star Trek franchise has been nothing short of iconic. As one of the few central characters to appear in all 3 films since J.J. A long-awaited return to the Enterprise. When the first rebooted Star Trek film hit theaters in 2009, it breathed new life into the beloved franchise. With a fresh-faced cast and a modern take on the classic characters, it introduced a new generation of fans to the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Zoe Saldaña's Uhura was a standout, fierce, intelligent, and unapologetically independent. Through the subsequent films, she solidified her place as an indispensable member of the crew, and her relationship with Spock, Zachary Quinto, added emotional depth to her character's arc. However, since Star Trek Beyond in 2016, the future of the franchise has remained uncertain. With behind-the-scenes changes, shifting priorities within Paramount, and the tragic loss of Anton Yelchin, who played Chekhov, plans for Star Trek IV were frequently delayed or scrapped. But now, it seems the pieces are falling into place for the next installment, and Zoe Saldaña's reported return signals that the core cast may reunite for another adventure. Saldaña's hopes for Uhura's evolution. In a recent interview, Zoe Saldaña opened up about her excitement for Star Trek IV and what she envisions for her character. Uhura has always been a strong, capable officer, but I feel like there's still so much more to explore with her, Saldaña shared. She's always been an integral part of the team, but I want to see her step into a leadership role in a way we haven't really seen yet. Fans of the franchise will recall that Uhura, while often commanding respect from her peers, has never been the one sitting in the captain's chair or calling the shots during high-stakes moments. Saldaña is eager for that to change. We've seen Kirk, Spock, and even Scotty have moments where they make critical decisions that shape the fate of the crew. Uhura has those moments too, but I want her to really lead, maybe even take charge of the Enterprise in Kirk's absence. Saldaña's comments suggest that Star Trek IV could mark a new chapter for Uhura, one where her leadership skills are highlighted and her influence over the mission becomes even more central. In many ways, this direction would honor the legacy of Nichelle Nichols, the original Uhura, who broke barriers as one of the first black women in a prominent TV role in the 1960s. Saldaña has often spoken of the weight of carrying Nichols' legacy, and it seems she's determined to continue pushing Uhura forward. Exploring Uhura's backstory. Another hope Saldaña expressed was diving deeper into Uhura's personal history. One thing I've always been curious about is who Uhura was before she joined Starfleet, Saldaña revealed. We know she's this brilliant linguist and communications expert, but what drove her to join? What challenges did she face growing up, and what did she have to overcome to get where she is? In the previous films, audiences were given glimpses of Uhura's life outside of her role on the Enterprise, particularly through her relationship with Spock. However, her own personal backstory has largely remained a mystery. Exploring her upbringing, the societal pressures she may have faced, and her early ambitions could add significant depth to her character. Some fans have speculated that Star Trek IV could take the opportunity to visit Uhura's home planet and introduce her family or mentors who inspired her journey. Given the franchise's ability to explore diverse worlds and cultures, there's plenty of potential for rich storytelling in this area. Uhura and Spock, the next phase. Of course, no discussion about Uhura's future would be complete without addressing her complex relationship with Spock. Over the course of the 3 films,